In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how I made $180,000 with a single YouTube video and how you can do the same using AI. All right, so let's kick it off. Here, you can see that I've made $180,000 with a single YouTube video. And if you stay till the end, I'm not only going to share with you exactly how you can do it, but I'm also going to be sharing with you 3 hot faceless YouTube niches that you can dive into if you're starting a new channel. But if you don't watch the video, you're not going to know how to use them properly, so make sure that you do watch all the way through. All right, so who am I in case you're unfamiliar with me? Adam Del Duca. I started YouTube in 2016, so I've been doing this for quite a while. I've earned hundreds of thousands of dollars with faceless YouTube channels while working a busy 9-to-5 job and have over 2 million subscribers, and I've helped hundreds of people grow and monetize their channels as well. Here are just some of the income figures from a few channels that you can see. So again, the money has been coming in for quite a while now, fortunately. And just to make sure that you know that you're not wasting your time by watching this full video, because it's going to be a bit of a lengthy one, here are just some of the results from some of my students, thousands of dollars per month. And you can see here, even Diego scaled up his own channel to over $20,000 per month within a year. Again, most of the people I'm working with are working 9-to-5 jobs, which is absolutely fine. So if you're concerned that you may not have the time to do this yourself, just know that many people have done it before you. All right, so let's dive in to how I was able to scale one single video to $180,000. So stage 1, generating 180K with a single YouTube video. All right, so if we go over here, we're going to be able to see exactly what the video is, just so you know that it is a real video on YouTube. So here you can see that we have the video, How I Tricked My Brain to Like Doing Hard Things, Dopamine Detox. Here you can see the total views, the watch time, and the amount of money that it has earned. So $180,000. Again, this is just simply ad revenue. All right, so how did I do it? That's a big question here. And how can you copy me? So let me share a couple things first, just to make sure that we're on the same page. So, typically people want to grow a YouTube channel. A faceless channel especially is very popular. So let's talk about why people struggle first, okay? So why do people struggle to grow? Well, sometimes they end up picking the wrong niche, okay? So they enter in a niche, but there's not a lot of demand for that particular niche. So the number of people that can actually watch their videos is pretty low. So even if they do capture a large amount of the market, they're not getting a ton of views, right? And they can also struggle to make money with a niche if they pick the wrong niche that doesn't have a lot of monetization potential. So their videos, even if they get quite a few views, probably won't translate into a lot of dollars. So that's the first reason why people struggle. Next is poor ideas, okay? So they have a channel that's in a good niche maybe, but they don't have a robust structure or framework that they can follow to come up with video ideas. And so what ends up happening is that they create videos that they think are going to do well because they're pretty well put together, edited, etc. But the ideas are just quite poor. So they're not actually going to attract people to watch the videos, which results in low viewership. Then there's minimal value. So very oftentimes people will have the right niche, they'll pick some good ideas. However, the value in the video itself is not unique, it's not different, and it's not novel. And what ends up happening is that people will end up watching a video and then it's like, well, I've already heard this before, so people just click off, right? And this is where most people that have some sort of foray into YouTube actually struggle the most, because they think I have all the actual frameworks understood when it comes to putting the video together, but then they overlook actually making a video that provides unique value in the market. And then finally, weak packaging. Most people understand how to make a title, but they don't really know how to make a thumbnail resonate with their audience, and so they struggle to grow and monetize. And if you get any of these things wrong, you are going to have a very, very hard time growing and monetizing on YouTube, which is why I wanted to call them out. And we're going to talk about how to fix all of these as well later on in the video. So you're in for a good one here. All right. So now let's talk about how I was able to make $180,000 with a single YouTube video. Again, this is just strictly ad revenue alone. All right, so number one, I had a profitable niche. I had a very high demand idea. The video had unique value included in it, and then I was able to leverage proven packaging. Okay, so we're going to go through each one of these different areas so you really understand the thought behind it, what goes into it, so that you can emulate the exact same thing on a channel that you're either working on right now or a channel that you want to build. All right, so number one is a profitable niche. So in this particular case, you can see here that the ad revenue per 1,000 views on this video, the RPM that I'm actually taking home, is $6.40. So you really want to focus on selecting a niche that has a high CPM, RPM, so basically amount of advertising dollars per 1,000 views, because then every single view that you get will in effect be worth more, okay? So as I have here, it automatically raises the probability of receiving positive ROI on your video. So let's just use an example right here, right? This video, it's making me $6.40 per 1,000 views. So just for me to break even on a video that costs, let's say $100, I would only need 15,000 views to be able to do that. Whereas let's say that the videos were making less than $2 per 1,000 views on this channel, you can see that you'd need around 50,000 views to break even from an ad revenue perspective, okay? So unfortunately, many people overlook the profitability of their niche, even just from an RPM perspective. They just go after any trending niche possible, and then they overlook how they're actually going to recoup the money that they're putting into their channel, right? So this is why I work directly with people to help them select their niche, find one that's profitable, that aligns to their income goals. And if you do want to do that together, you can just click the link in this video's description to learn more about that. All right. So now I obviously was in a position where I was going to get paid pretty well per 1,000 views. And so this is the first factor that allowed me to make the $180,000 with the single video. So next, if we take a look, we have high demand idea. So this is one of my favorite concepts to share. So I always talk about ideas and high demand, like selling hot dogs at the Super Bowl. So if you were at the Super Bowl and you were selling hot dogs during the game, obviously high demand, there's thousands and thousands of people there. You'd sell a lot of hot dogs. It would be probably pretty profitable for you. If you come back to the stadium the next day and you try and sell those hot dogs when no one's there, well, you're obviously not going to be making a lot of money or any at all, right? So we want to put our videos and our video ideas in front of an audience that has high interest in those ideas. All right. So how did I come up with the idea of making a video about dopamine detox, right? So dopamine detox, one of the things that you can use, or one of the tools, is actually Google Trends, which is this right here. So if you take a look at the dopamine detox search result, number one, I just want to clarify that when you're using this tool, you want to have 3 different factors enabled. Number one, the United States as a demographic, because it's going to be a high paying audience. Number 2, you want to see the interest over the last 12 months, and you want to look at YouTube search, which is going to pull in data from YouTube. So as you can see here, the interest in this particular topic is high. When the video was released, it was also very high. So I could basically see that people were interested in this topic, which means that I'm kind of putting my video in a position similar to selling hot dogs at the Super Bowl, where there's going to be a lot of interest in buyers for, instead of the hot dogs, a lot of interested people that want to watch the video. So again, this is how this is engineered. If you are liking these tips right now, just hit that subscribe, because I'm going to be sharing a lot more breakdowns upcoming in the future, okay? So next we have, again, higher demand equals higher view potential. So just because you do this analysis doesn't mean that your videos are going to get millions of views, but it just means that you put your videos in a position to potentially get a ton of views, which is all that you can really do at the end of the day. All right. Now let's talk about unique value. So now that you have the right niche and you have some good ideas for your topics, now you need to understand sharing unique value in your videos. And so this is something that a lot of people overlook, and that's why their videos don't get a lot of retention and they don't get any views on their channel. Okay, so here we have low grade recycled value, and this is most channels. This is where most channels go wrong, okay? So let's say that you're making a video about saving money. A lot of people will start their channel in the personal finance niche and think, okay, I just got to basically crank out some videos and I'm going to make a lot of money, because especially due to the fact that this is a high CPM niche. So their video is on how to save more money. And they say, you make a budget, spend less than you earn, stop drinking Starbucks. You've already heard all these different things before, so you're not going to listen when someone tries to give you this advice, right? However, what if someone was saying things like use a buying window? So only buy things and items during certain periods of the day or during the week. Or set artificial spending limits. So maybe on your credit card, even though you can afford to spend $500 per day, you set it at $50. Or incognito spending, where you use an incognito browser to buy things so that you get the best deals possible because you're not getting tracked, right? So in this particular case, think about how unique those second set of ideas were that were integrated into the video. It's all pretty unique, right? So that video is probably going to get a lot more attention and retention than the former. So you need to think when you're creating these videos, and this is what I was thinking about, is how can I share unique value that's not in every other video on YouTube? So here, as you can see from the video, and just like a screenshot of the whiteboard imagery, novel concept shared, okay? Talking about building boredom tolerance. So how long can you go without using your phone, without watching TV, listening to music? Basically becoming more tolerant of quietness and thinking. Next, how food intake impacts dopamine. So fasting. So removing that dopamine hit you get from food during part of the day. No one talks about this, right? Everyone just says ditch your phone. It's not really very novel. Then sharing a dopamine detox routine. A lot of people just want to talk about where you get all this dopamine from, but they don't actually share how to solve the issue. So again, at the time that the video was released, this was a novel thing to share. So obviously sharing real value in the videos is important. And as you can see here, this is not some hyper edited video. It's literally just images coming up on the screen, and it still generated a ton of views because the value is there. Okay, now let's go on to the final factor, which is proven packaging. So many people, they spend all this time writing the scripts, voicing over the videos, etc., and they overlook the titles and thumbnails of their videos. So I just want to identify a couple things where people typically go wrong, so you yourself, when you go to emulate what I'm sharing with you here, you don't make this mistake. All right, so deprioritizing packaging. That's what most channels do. So their titles are lacking intrigue, they're too long, so they get cut off when you see them on the home page. They're too narrow of titles. So what I mean by this is that you're targeting too specific of an audience. You want to make it more broad if you want to reach more people, right? So for instance, how to save more money is much more broad than how to save more money if you live in a third world country, or if you're an accountant that works a busy job, right? So the more broad it is, the more broadly appealing it can be, the more views you could potentially get because of how you position the video. And then not selling the benefit. You know, most people are not going to spend their time watching your video if it doesn't provide value. So again, give them a sense of what they're going to benefit from as they watch. Now, thumbnail mistakes. People put too much text. The text is too small. The font is all over the place and too hard to read. It can duplicate text, so you're basically using the same text on your thumbnail as a title. It's not often the best practice. Or you're using low resolution imagery, which obviously is going to be hard to see. So if you just take a look at this, you can see here that the packaging is very clear, okay? So you have an easy to read title here, or thumbnail text here, an easy to see image, you have a very clear color, then you have a relatively short title that introduces what the topic is. There's some intrigue because you're tricking your brain and whatnot. So all these factors here, generally speaking, that I'm saying that you want to avoid, we have avoided them in this thumbnail, which is obviously why the video did particularly well. So, here's my little equal sign, and it equals the $180,000 just from one video. So imagine releasing one YouTube video and making as much as a doctor, right? Obviously, you're not going to always be able to replicate this, but if you know what you're doing, then you can obviously get a higher chance of actually achieving these results. So speaking of you getting these results, now let's just talk about how you can emulate this exact same thing we just discussed with the use of AI. So I'm just going to scroll out here, and we're going to be going over to stage 2, which is replicating those results you just saw by using AI. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through all the things that you need right here, tip to tail. So if we go to the first step, I just want to basically go over the different components that are going to go into you making a video. So in this particular case, you need to understand that there's really going to be 6 components that go into you emulating these results. So the first thing is selecting your niche. Again, has to be monetizable, has to be one with high interest, etc. Then you're going to have the ideation. We'll talk about the titling, the thumbnails, the script writing, the voiceover, and the editing. So we're going to talk about each one of these different elements, because if any of them go amiss, you are going to struggle to get views and grow your channel. All right, so let's move on through to each and every one. Okay, so the first thing is niche selection, okay? So many people, they just pick a niche where they think, okay, I just saw it on Twitter, I just saw it on YouTube, and I'll just pursue it. But they don't actually think of how they should be pursuing it, if it aligns to their income goals, if there really is a lot of demand for those particular niches. So the criteria that I look for when selecting a niche is going to be that the niche and channels within the niche are monetized, they have high demand, there's moderate to high CPM, so at least $5 per 1,000 views, and there's at least 2 monetization methods available, because you want to stack on top of ad revenue things like brand deals, affiliates, and that's actually going to scale up your income as fast as possible. And this is why I work with people directly to help them pick their niches and really grow their channel, because if you miss this first step, you're going to end up pursuing a path that may not be aligned with your goals, and that's a lot of time and money to basically invest into something that's not going to get you where you want to go. So if you do want to work together on that, again, you can just hit the link in the video's description or pinned comment to learn more. So now, what tool are you going to use to select your niche, right? Because we want to make this as efficient as possible. So I recommend TubeLab Niche Finder. So what this tool allows you to do is it allows you to basically filter a whole bunch of different niches that you can then potentially pursue. So for this example, this is just the homepage of the niche finder. As you can see here, tubelab.net. And it's going to give you all these potential niches that you can pursue. So number 1, it's going to show you if the channel is in high or low demand. It's going to show you if it's monetized with this symbol. It's going to show you what the estimated RPM is. And it's even going to show you how much money it's made in the last 30 days. So you want these different factors to align to these different factors here, okay? And you may be thinking, well, how do I know how many monetization methods it has? Because you can obviously see all these other ones have been met based on this output. You would just open up the channel, and then you'd watch some of the videos to see if there's brand deal integrations, affiliates, products, anything else that would build upon the different ad revenue earnings that it can make, right? So this is one way to do this, and this will probably only take you about 15-20 minutes to really scan through this tool to find the niche that's going to meet those criteria for you. So it's pretty quick. All right, so now you've selected your niche, you have your channel set up, and you're ready to go. So now let's talk about the ideation process. So when you're coming up with ideas like you saw in that $180,000 video that you're trying to emulate, you want to be looking at high demand and low supply topics. So I talked about high demand being important because you want all those people there to be able to potentially watch your video. You don't want to be serving no one. But you also want to think about low supply topics. So if there is this one thing that everyone wants and you're the only supplier, think about how good of a position that puts you in. That's where you want to be with your YouTube channel ideally, okay? And so when it comes to these 2 criteria being met, I really recommend TubeLab again. If you're gonna get the tool for the niche finder, you might as well use it for your ideation purposes, because again, we wanna be doing this on a budget as much as we can to make your channel as profitable as possible. So here, we want to use the TubeLab Ideas Finder. And so let's say you decided that your niche is about longevity. What you can do is you can just enter in the keyword for your channel, and it's going to pull up a whole bunch of outlier videos that are demonstrated by these different outlier multipliers. So that's how many more views that video is getting as compared to average on the channel. So 18 times more, 22 times more, etc. So you'd want to basically come up with videos for your particular channel based on these outliers, because again, they're proven to have been really interesting to this particular market that you're entering into. And that's the demand side. But then on the supply side, you'd want to look at, okay, here are the topics that are in high demand. How many people have addressed them already? And if it's a low amount, that's where you get into that zone where you're going after the high supply and the high demand and the low supply. All right, so now you've gotten this tool, you're using this tool that's going to allow you to obviously come up with topics very quickly for your channel. Again, you may not have a ton of time to do this. Maybe you're working a busy job, you have a family. This is why these tools and using the right tools is super important. It's going to save you a ton of time and highly increase your chances of having successful videos. All right, now let's talk about titles. So many people, they kind of mess up the packaging. So that's the titles and the thumbnails, and then they get basically no views. Obviously that's frustrating, right? So if we want to emulate this $180,000 video, we need to make sure that the titling is on point. So you want to be focusing on high intrigue, short, and contextual titles. So high intrigue is basically getting people to want to click further onto the video and to watch it. Short titles, you obviously want the titles to be short enough so that they're not getting cut off when they're viewed on the home page or on the suggested sidebar. And you obviously want your title to be contextual to what the video is also about, so people get a sense of, is this about sports? Is it about celebrities? Is it about learning something? We need to know based on the title. So I recommend the 1 to 10 title generator. So as you can see here, the title generator is actually going to show you different titles and provide them the character length as well, based on either channels that you've entered in, ideas that you have around what the video is about, etc. So you can literally get an output of a ton of great titles in a matter of minutes. It's very, very easy to use. And again, just one of those tools to speed up the process for you. Next, we have thumbnails, okay? So when it comes to thumbnails, you need to be really particular about this. And this is where I see many people struggle, is they actually put together a pretty good idea and a good script and voiceover, but the thumbnails just don't really sell the video, right? I always talk about videos like a Lamborghini, right? But it's not great if your Lamborghini sits in the garage and no one sees it because, again, you've kind of hid it. Well, you're kind of hiding your videos if you don't have the proper titles and thumbnails put together for your videos. So again, thumbnails, they're not overly complex to make, especially if you understand the human psychology behind why someone would click on a video, for instance, again, to gain a benefit from it. But in this case, you know, basically with AI, creating these thumbnails has become significantly easier. You don't need a ton of skill to do it. You just have to know the right tools to be able to use to get to this point. So your thumbnail criteria, high resolution, minimal text, and it complements the title. So you want to have a combination of a really good title and then a thumbnail that's really going to tell the full story of what the video is about. All right, so the 1 to 10 thumbnail generator is really where you want to be with this. This is probably one of the most effective thumbnail generators right now. Of course, you could obviously make the thumbnails yourself, but if you want to leverage AI and get some really high quality thumbnails, this is the tool that I would recommend for you. Again, not being paid by these different tools and the companies behind them, just these are the ones that I highly recommend, I've used and had positive experiences with. All right, so we're getting there. Stay with me because remember, at the end, I'm going to be sharing 3 hot faceless YouTube niches that you're going to want to think about if you're starting a channel on YouTube. All right, So script writing is next, okay? So again, if you really want to emulate the results that I've been able to achieve with that one video that we talked about a few minutes ago, you are going to want to think about having 3 items in your scripts, okay? You want to have novel ideas, so things that no one's talked about before that you can add new insights into the market with. You want to be targeting your ideal viewer, so when people are listening to the video, they're like, wow, I feel like he or she is talking directly to me. That is crucially important for retaining people on the videos. And then it's going to align to a supply gap in the market. So again, sharing ideas that no one's talked about. So you basically tap into that difference between the supply and the demand in the market. And no, my recommendation for you is not Claude or ChatGPT. It is Subscriber AI. So if we take a look over here, when you're using Subscriber AI, what you're going to be able to do is adjust the channel voice settings. So you're going to enter in your channel or a different channel that you want to emulate, and it's actually going to write in basically the tone and the cadence of whatever channel you want to input, okay? And so this allows you to target your ideal viewer, and then all you have to do is output your script based on the research you provided. You can modify any of the different inputs that it has in the body, and then you'll be able to create a really, really powerful script in just a matter of minutes. So back in the day when people were writing scripts by hand, it would take 2-3 hours to do this. And again, this is another very cost-effective tool that instead of paying a script writer, say $30-50 per script, you can literally pay, between $20 and $50 per month and get as many scripts as you need. So if you are trying to do this on a budget, just know that there are a lot of really good tools available right now, and they're only going to get more powerful over time. Okay, now let's talk about voiceovers. So you want your voiceover, and many people overlook this, so I'm glad that you've made it to this point in the video, is they just kind of overlook the whole voiceover process, but the auditory elements of your video are just as important as the script and as the editing, okay? And so a couple of things you want to think about when you're making your voiceover is using a unique, relevant voice. So if you're talking about American baseball, you probably want an American voiceover, right? If you're talking about hockey in Canada, maybe you want to have a Canadian voice that kind of resonates a little bit more with who that key audience would be. So again, use your professional judgment in this case. And then you also want to have your voiceover smoothened for cadence. So what do I mean by this? Well, if you've ever watched YouTube videos before that are voiced over with AI, sometimes they talk like this, and then there's a pause, and it keeps going. It doesn't really sound natural, right? So I would actually recommend that you use 11 Labs for your voiceovers because the cadence used with the AI voice is really natural sounding. And at the very least, if you export your AI voiceover, you can basically put it into Descript and actually remove all the different pauses in the voiceover to make it as smooth and natural sounding as possible. If you don't want to do this yourself, you can always outsource this activity, but the voiceovers are getting more natural sounding over time. And just in case you're concerned, AI voiceovers, when put together with a high quality script and edit, are monetizable with YouTube. I know people have asked me many times in the past, are you allowed AI voices? And you absolutely are. You just want to ensure that it's being put together and used to make a high quality video that people will want to watch. YouTube just doesn't really want to get into a situation where it's paying to basically host a whole bunch of low quality content, which is why some people were concerned whether or not this would be permissible. But with an original script and edit, you're good to go. All right, so here's just an example of a listing that you have right here of the different voices available when you are using 11 Labs. Again, much more cost effective than if you were going to pay a voiceover artist, and the quality is getting so good it's almost indistinguishable. Now let's finally talk about editing, okay? So while you may want me to tell you that there's this perfect editing tool that you click one button and it puts your whole video together, I'm sure we're pretty close to that point now, but honestly, I don't know anyone that's doing this at a very high level that's using an editing software that is a one-click solution for editing via the use of AI. Okay, so if you do want to make sure that all these other aspects get put together in a really good final product, you will still have to use an editing mechanism like a CapCut, a Premiere Pro to edit your videos together, which is pretty manual in nature. Okay, things to think about when it comes to editing is a unique or branded appearance. So you don't really want to have your editing style to look like everyone else's, otherwise why wouldn't someone just watch someone else's video and not yours? And you want to make sure that you have a high frequency of pattern breaks, so things that are coming on screen, whether they're audio, visual, changing the scenery around so that people stay engaged when they're watching. This is why I'm moving around the screen so much. And if you feel like your editing skills are not where they need to be, or alternatively, you just don't have the time to edit, or you don't have the computer powerful enough to edit videos, I would highly recommend you outsource on Upwork, because it's just going to improve your video quality significantly faster than if you were to do it yourself. So you will actually get a lot quicker results on your channel if you ensure that your editing is in really good shape, okay? So why Upwork? Why is that the platform I recommend? Well, basically, it is a really good platform for having customizable job posts that will basically meet any of your needs. And like I said, why outsource is just you're going to get your video quality to where it needs to be as fast as possible to take off your videos. It means that you're basically delegating some of the work, so it's going to make making videos a lot easier on a weekly basis to get out and published and uploaded. And then also, like I said, if you don't have certain tools, you kind of avoid that, okay? And now that you made it to the end of the video, here are 3 faceless YouTube niches that you can pursue. And if you want to build a channel together, hit the link in the video's description and pin comment, and I'll see you in the next one.